Welcome to Across the Balkans. Great to have you with us on the show. I'm Ludovica Brignola. Montenegro lies on the so-called Western Balkan route, where migrants, mostly from the Middle East and Asia, try to reach the EU. Being one of the smallest countries in the whole of Europe, Montenegro has often struggled with stopping these migration flows. As a result, back in 2020, the country signed a deal with the EU, allowing its border and coast guard agency Frontex to help police its borders. In May this year, they renewed this partnership, giving Frontex guards further reach, including helping clamp down on weapons smuggling and other criminal activity. But the EU's border agency isn't without controversy, and questions are being raised as to how much authority they should have. Mirjana Miladinovic has this story from Podgorica.
It was back in July 2020 that an agreement on border cooperation between the European Union and Montenegro came into force. For Montenegro, it was part of an effort for tighter border controls and also to show its commitment to the EU any way it could.
Na ovaj način hoćemo da pokažemo da Crna Gora, pored toga što je spremna da primjenjuje ono što je zakonodavstvo Evropske unije i negdje usaglašavamo se sa zakonodavstvom Evropske unije, da smo spremni na operativnom nivou da djelujemo, da pokažemo punu spremnost, punu kooperativnost i negdje budemo, ako tako mogu da kažem, negdje na toj prvoj liniji fronta odbrane Evropske unije, s obzirom da je Crna Gora negdje prva na granici Evropske unije i na ovaj način da negdje uz podršku Frontexa zaštitimo i granice Evropske unije, osim toga što je ovo velika šansa da se zaštite i naše granice.
Since the agreement, Montenegro has received Frontex support both on land and sea, but only on the one border pass with Croatia, which is an EU member. Frontex believes the scheme has benefits for both sides. They said Frontex supports Montenegro to manage its border and to align its border management standards to the EU. Our partnership is a win-win situation, as the EU's security is also improved through a boost from Montenegrin border management capacities. Montenegro says the partnership with Frontex has made both its and EU's border safer.
Well, till this day, we had 68 Frontex team members deployed from 23 different EU countries. So far, Frontex officers successfully assisted our local border guards in detecting document fraud, stolen vehicles, smuggling of drugs, weapons, irregular migrations, etc.
Frontex members here have the same rights as Montenegrin police.
Members of Frontex in Montenegro enjoy great privileges. Police cannot search their personal luggage or apartments. They may not be arrested, nor may they be part of any investigation or court proceedings. And what's more, Montenegro is responsible for all damage they cause to third parties.
But the collaboration has been smooth. And 3 years after the Frontex members first arrived, Montenegro and the EU have struck a new agreement. Under the deal, Frontex members will now guard all Montenegrin border crossings, not just the one with Croatia.
New operational plan, which will include both land and the sea activities into one joint operation, is still in draft version and is in the focus of expert teams from the Montenegrin border police and Frontex, because cooperation will be extended on more crossing points, not only Debeli Brijeg, and also joint patrolling activities at the green border. Together we put efforts for updated plan to start by the end of this year, but what I can say for sure is that new status agreement will definitely be implemented with beginning of 2024.
The decision makers are confident that Frontex officers will help Montenegrin police overcome challenges they've never faced.
Ne samo u Crnoj Gori, nego svuda u Evropi povećan broj nelegalnih migracija, također da je i taj prekogranični kriminal negdje s obzirom na dešavanja koja su bila nemila u Ukrajini povećan, da su ljudi koji su mobilniji u ovom momentu negdje, da je ta cifra izraženija nego li ranije i problem imaju gotovo sve države na svojim granicama. Ja ako vam kažem da mi samo U ovom momentu imamo 5% od ukupnog stanovništva ljudi koji su došli iz Ukrajine. Možete da zamislite koliki je negdje bio udar i opterećenje na naše granične prelaze.
But Frontex track record isn't spotless. The European Border Agency has been hit with numerous investigations for its methods. Last year, classified reports from the European Union Anti-Fraud Agency were leaked to the media, revealing a massive cover-up by Frontex. The European Border Agency also allegedly helped finance illegal pushbacks of asylum seekers in Greece. According to the leaked documents, Frontex border guards systematically dumped asylum seekers at sea, either in rickety boats or on inflatable life rafts. The investigators reviewed private emails and WhatsApp messages from Fabrice Leggeri, the former head of Frontex, and his team. After mounting pressure, Leggeri handed in his resignation in April of last year, ending his nearly 7-year reign as the EU's border protection chief. And now the spotlight will be on Frontex and how it handles the influx of migrants in places like Montenegro, a major stop on the so-called Balkan route. Mirjana Miladinovic, TRT World, Podgorica, Montenegro.
Joining me now from Trieste, Italy, is Martina Previatello. She is a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Trieste. Thank you very much for being with us today. So I do want to start, Martina, with asking you, how dire is this situation with migrants? And I mean, what numbers are we talking about? And why is this such a pressing issue right now?
Well, Montenegro is located on the Balkan route, which is the second most relevant migration route towards the European Union after the central Mediterranean route. Migration flows, according to Frontex numbers, have increased in the last years. So from January to June 2023, more than 130,000 people have irregularly crossed EU borders, which is the highest total for the first part of the year since 2016. But the central Mediterranean route is the main migratory route. Irregular border crossing in the Western Balkan states in the first part of this year were around 40,000, which means that in this area, irregular border crossing decreased of 30% compared to 2022. And as regards Montenegro, for example, we can say that 4,000 people have irregularly crossed Montenegrin border in the first month of 2022. Half were coming from Albania, and the other half were coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Right, so that's significant amounts. And as we said a few seconds ago, in May this year, Montenegro renewed this partnership with Frontex. In what way do you think this partnership changed this time round? And also, where does the controversy stem from with Frontex itself?
As you said, in May 2023, a new status agreements enter into force between the European Union and Montenegro concerning the deployment of Frontex border guards to the territory of Montenegro. Actually, it was in 2022 when the Ministry of Interior of Montenegro asked the European Union for Frontex border guard to be deployed at the borders between Montenegro and its neighboring countries, the Western Balkan states, especially Albania and Bosnia, to assist and support Montenegrin border guards in the management of Montenegrin borders. Indeed, it must be stressed in this regards that border management involves very complex and also sensitive issues, such as the distinction between economic migrants and asylum seekers who have the right to ask for international protection and asylum and to be given a special status and specific guarantees. Moreover, border management requires the detection of cross-border crimes, so for example, trafficking in human beings, smuggling and terrorism. But at the same time, what is controversial is that border guards must respect fundamental rights of people that cross these borders, especially in cases of vulnerable persons, like unaccompanied minors, people with disabilities, or women who have been victims of human trafficking, for example.
Has this agency, Frontex, helped at all with these problems in recent years, do you think? What tangible results are we seeing, if at all?
Actually, it's true that Frontex assistance and support is necessary both to EU member states located at the external borders of the European Union, but also it is necessary to support and help border guards of those third countries that are neighbor to the European Union. And Frontex assistance and support aims at helping, in this case, Montenegrin border guards tackling this kind of situation.
Right, but as we said, Frontex, there has been a lot of controversy as well. The agency has been in the eye of the storm in the past for illegal pushback scandals in Greece. Its border agents were accused of covering up crimes committed against migrants trying to enter Greece, for example. It has been repeatedly criticized as well by the EU for illegal actions at sea and land borders. What are your thoughts on this very case?
Yeah, well, indeed, Frontex actions have been investigated firstly by journalists in the last years, and following these journalistic investigations, also investigations have been conducted by EU organs and institutions, such as, for example, OLAF, the European Office Anti-Fraud, the European Ombudsman, but also the European Parliament. This led the resignation of Frontex former executive director and his entourage in April 2022. Moreover, another result of these investigations and inquiries brought the European Parliament to refuse to discharge 2020 Frontex budget on the 18th of October 2022. The resolutions approved by the European Parliament that same day gives account, in fact, of the situation and of the major flaws in Frontex actions, together with some positive changes occurred in the management of the agency after the resignation of Frontex executive director.
Right.
Well, as I said before, it cannot be denied that Frontex activity implies indeed complex and sensitive issues, together with the risk of fundamental rights violation. But I believe that this does not and cannot justify the violation or derogation of absolute human rights and principles, such as, for example, the non-refoulement principle or the prohibition of collective expulsions that are guaranteed by the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights, but also by international law. For example, the European Convention on Human Rights, to which Montenegro is a party, and the Geneva Convention on the Status of Refugees of 1951.
These are very complex and sensitive issues, as you say.
Indeed.
But would you assess then that Frontex is still a reliable partner in guarding European borders overall, in your opinion?
Well, as I said, Frontex support has become, over the years, necessary both for EU member states and for neighboring third countries, especially Western Balkans, for the management of borders, because it provides for help, support, technical assistance, and it helps in conducting border controls. It remains at border checking points, and it conducts border surveillance, and it is able to prevent unauthorized entries, for example, but also to support in the sea borders operations, support search and rescue activities. So on one hand, it is of course necessary. On the other hand, it must be stressed that Frontex has an obligation to respect fundamental rights. Well, and as regards cooperation with Montenegro in particular, official documents from the European Union state that cooperation with Montenegro has so far been successful.
Right.
To the point that,
please go ahead.
To the point that just wanted to say the proposal to negotiate and upgrade the status agreement came from Montenegrin authorities. Then there are also data about the respect of fundamental rights by Frontex. When Frontex carries out actions in Montenegro, there is, for example, the fundamental the Fundamental Rights Office report about last year, 2022, which says that they did not identify major fundamental rights challenges as regards border activities involving Frontex in Montenegro.
Right.
And
quickly,
no
just before we run out of time, Martina, sorry, it's not, Frontex has not just been deployed in Montenegro itself, but also has it been active in other countries in Europe?
Yeah. Indeed, it played a role in the Western, a specific role in the Western Balkans, starting from 2018. Indeed, status agreements have been concluded between the European Union and Albania, Serbia, North Macedonia, and Moldova as well, together with Montenegro.
Right.
And these status agreements are international agreements concluded between the European Union and third states, which regulate the status and the deployment of Frontex border guards who are endowed with executive powers to carry out operations on the territory of these countries.
Martina Previatello, thank you very much for being with us today for your analysis.